What is up? What is up? What's up? Are the birds at night?
The birds are up at night. The birds
Flying
are
with
up
us.
at night. The
The
birds are
birds
up
are
at
up at
night.
night. The
The
birds
birds
are
are
up.
up.
The
Birds are
birds
up.
are up. The birds are up at night.
Uh, Thank you so much, guys. If you are checking us now or in the replay, please leave a like, share, and subscribe and help
Please
the channel
comment.
out. And yeah, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you and letting us know what you like about the show, what you want us to kind of focus more on, and just, let
To
us know.
cover. We're planning to do
Yeah,
some specials. We really will.
yeah,
I know we keep
yeah.
talking about it, but we will do some specials.
That's right. So, uh, one of the things that you had sent me that I was thought it was unique was this. So, this is an election flyer from Chicago area Catholic parish that pushes radical leftist policies, including global warming and gun control. What
Because
is this?
that's in the Bible
Yeah, it's
and in the Catechism. It's
what
part
is
of the
this?
sacred tradition of the Catholic Church to be against global warming and for gun control.
Right, right, right.
If people are listening and don't know, that's called sarcasm.
What? No, no. Timothy, 365. It talks about, and the water shall be warmer.
And
And
you
you
do
should.
recall Jesus on the Blessed Mount with the Beatitudes saying, and blessed are those who buy a Tesla, for
That's
they
right.
shall inherit the earth.
I know. And if you remember in Numbers, it did say, "No Glocks shall thee have, and AR-15s will be crushed in the mount." That's
I
it.
think
That's
I
that's
recall
there.
that verse. I think I learned it in
That's
Sunday school.
There, very much so. So this election flyers from Chicago area Catholic parish pushes radical leftist policy, including global warming and gun control, taking page from the Bolsheviks. A parish in suburban Chicago circulated an election flyer pushing radical leftist views, titled "Equally Sacred Checklist."
And
According
that
to the
is
flyer,
so sketchy. That's so sketchy,
right?
Fletcher. We got to stop right there because this is going against what the United States Conference of Bishops have constantly told us in terms of voting, that there isn't an equally sacred checklist, that there is a hierarchy of important issues for Catholics in terms of the moral code. Some things are more sacred, for example, issues of life. As much as you might care about, the disposition of your taxes or lower taxes or something, those are important issues. But when we have a conflict, like both candidates don't have the same, basic platform, for example, then you have to make a hierarchical decision so that something that's more important, like say their position on some issue of dignity, of human dignity, comes ahead of something that's purely economic, for example. So I don't know
Right.
what they mean by this equally sacred checklist
It's an equally sacred
for a
checklist. So
Catholic, source, like a parish like this.
I just don't think that you're deep enough to understand the equally sacred
that's
checklist.
that's clear. I'm
Then
not
you
deep
then you
enough for this.
didn't you learn that in catechism? The equally sacred checklist
Right.
is there. According to the flyer, Catholics should not be a single issue voter, and instead should consider lots of issues as long as those issues support radical leftist position. According to the flyer, the following leftist ideologies are equally sacred.
Okay, I'm going to read these for you because you're not going to say this right.
Okay.
Um, keeping control over the weather,
Mm.
keeping control over the pews,
Mm-hmm.
supporting the sins that cry out to God for vengeance,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
and letting in everybody across the border,
Okay.
and free welfare.
Okay. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And don't forget free hanging out and free iPad. All
Yeah.
right. So I guess this is a flyer, basically. So
All
this
this is
was from
about is making sure that Catholics don't, in their opinion, overly focus on laws that go against deleting one's baby. in the womb. That's what they're talking
That's,
about.
I mean, that's literally the how should we say it? You know how they say nom de plume when you were trying to, go by a secret writing thing? It's like
Yeah.
it's not so nom de plume. It's like that's it. Like
Yeah.
their number one thing right now. I think that's it. Just can you help me delete my baby the fastest way possible? That's it. Because I mean they went back on the now they're supposed to secure the border. Supposedly they're gonna kick people out now. They're gonna uh,
And when you say they, you mean the left, right?
right. So the
Yeah.
left, it looks like they're gonna do all these things now that supposedly all the Republicans are running on. They're doing it too. I even heard that she was gonna Trump says they weren't gonna tax tips, and then she was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna tax tip." And now recently, I think they were saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna pay reparations, for Black Americans and stuff like that. You never got your 40 acres and a mule. Remember those? Yeah, we're gonna. So well, we'll talk about
I
that later.
wouldn't mind a 40 acres and a mule, though. If someone wants to give me that, I could work with that.
I think it's because you've been watching a lot of those donkey videos and all stuff, and you think you're just gonna be a cute little donkey that you're
I'm
gonna
not
get
watching no
that you could
donkey videos, but
that
you
you're gonna
say mules are
dress.
not cute?
I'm not saying mules are not cute. I'm just saying it. Do you expect it to be like a little alpaca or stuff? It's like, yeah, we're running out of mules. Here's an alpaca and a little baby bunny. You know. So this is the equally sacred list. Um, how can we know we are voting for candidates who promote the common good? Pope Francis made it clear Catholics and all people of goodwill are called to be multi-issue voters, not single-issue voters. Equally say, I love how they have the Pope, and it's like, and this is probably like, okay, this is for, you know, older folks and stuff like that. It's so deceiving. So
I mean, it is deceptive, and honestly, it's not honest about what it's doing. And it's a bit snaky. I mean, now you're making it seem as though somehow Catholic people are doing the wrong thing if they have a strong desire to support life and choose candidates that do that, that you're now a single issue voter. It's meant to be a slur.
yeah.
Oh, look, we have friends. Hi, Jen.
Oh,
I'm
hi, Jen.
Ursula.
That's your
Ursula.
wife. I wish I knew her name. uh, we are gonna. I think I did have clips of the all Smith dinner, and you know, I
No,
did. I
the
know. Yeah,
Catholic rally, I missed it. I definitely
yeah.
missed it.
We didn't get to check out. We've been slammed. Hence the late night.
Late
That's
night
the late
with
night.
the birds.
Yeah, the late birds in the wire episode.
The
But
bat.
yeah, maybe I'll see if I have like something for it. We've been missing out on a few things that have been up there. So we just literally we had like a few things that we wanted to talk about, and we're like, okay, let's just do it a little bit later and see how much we can get through. But thank you so much, Jen, for being here. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. And we have to
Uh,
check it out, Fletch, to
I
see
know,
about
right?
this Catholic
I'll look
rally.
at it. Let me see what I can find. So, it's like, okay, so freedom to be healthy, freedom to care for yourselves and our families, freedom to live on a healthy planet, freedom from harm, gun. So it's basically gun control here, fossil
No,
fuel.
no, no. Look at this. Look at go freedom to participate in a vibrant democracy. You know what? Can someone let them know that we don't actually live in a democracy, that the founding fathers actually eschewed the idea of a democracy? What we live in is a constitutional republic. We
Let's
don't
not
have
get
freedom.
crazy. Obviously, you're not hip to the.
But all of these freedoms are, first of all, nothing that I can recognize in the Constitution of any kind. Freedom to be healthy, freedom to
You
participate in the
just
democracy, freedom to, what was the other ones? I mean, none of these are recognizable freedoms as an American. I don't know what they're talking about.
okay. So it
And
was
they're not
freedom to be
freedoms that
healthy,
I've freedom to care for ourselves and our planet, freedom to
freedom
have
to
a
care.
healthy planet. Where is that
Right.
located?
I just think you don't have that part of the Bible. See, you guys just you don't have it. That's in uh, macadamian knees. You know,
The macadamia nut
yeah,
portion of the Bible.
it's not in
But here,
Maccabees. It's macadamians.
but you know what,
Freedom from
Fletcher?
harm.
The thing about all of these, they're not freedoms. What they're talking about as freedoms are, in fact, responsibilities. These are things that you have a responsibility to care for. It's not the same thing as freedom. It's not given to you, it's not naturally yours. That's what a freedom is. A freedom is something that is yours by right. It's something that's a natural law. It's yours. You don't have freedom to be healthy. You have the right, you have a responsibility rather to take care of yourself, to do the best you can for your body and also for the planet. These are not freedoms, these are responsibilities.
Yeah, you have to be a good steward over the planet, and that's understandable. But do you see how even like in the bottom, it's like freedom to live on a healthy planet, care for a common home is required by the Catholic faith, and like freedom to participate in
Therefore,
vibrant
stop
democracy.
eating meat. Stop eating meat. I gotta tell you about this, Fletcher. I saw something. I don't know if you got this thing I sent you. Yale is having some kind of conversation with some scholar who looks like he could use a steak,
Mm,
talking about how, like, meat and dairy is what's, causing the worst harm in the environment. Are you kidding me? I mean, our great grandparents, everybody's been eating meat and dairy, but suddenly we're killing the environment because we eat it.
yeah, it's kind of like you see places
It's
like
kind of counterintuitive to me.
yeah, like in Britain, I think they had this thing where they, or Ireland or something, they took down like part of a forest to put down some kind of solar panel farm or something like that. You're like, what? Yeah, but the cows are the ones that are really messing up, you know? It's not the ones producing yellow dye number 274 that's uneatable, right?
Yeah.
So this is very this is terrible, and I think more priests should talk about this because it's the funny thing is the left's always talking about misinformation, and how is this not only misinformation? This is just
Well, this is running
deception
scared.
and
This is
propaganda.
running scared. They really know that the Catholic vote is somewhat still influential. And somebody thought it would be really cool to go try to, get people to vote for. I mean, I have to say, this is obviously meant to vote for the Democratic nominee and, not the other one. And I think it's a
Right,
little bit deceptive by not just coming out and saying that. But of course, they can't, because these people have been delivering these at parishes where they're not allowed to politic. Actually, churches are 501c3 organizations. They're not supposed to be places where people engage in this kind of, debate. You have general principles the best bishops have given, which is not about endorsing one or the other candidate. And that's why this one's kind of pretending like it's not, but it kind of is. But
hmm.
anyway, what else you got, Fletcher?
No, I mean, I think it was because I just saw the headline for this, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is so it's pretty vile. And I
You
was
really
like,
hate it. It sounds like you
yeah,
really hate it.
I was really
Okay.
surprised. I was like, I'm like,
Okay.
what is this? And then you're like, yeah, because that's literally the flyer, and it's like that's just wrong, you know. That's just totally wrong. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
believe
kind of.
that they
It's
had
kind of. Yeah.
something like that, and it just it's okay. I was very surprised to say the
Yeah,
least.
it's very
Uh,
surprising.
but I think the other thing that you were uh, telling me about, and this is coming from I guess in Colorado, that whole thing with uh, the the baker, right? So the baker had to
Oh
bake a
man,
cake,
that
right?
whole thing. Yeah, the Colorado Christian baker.
Yeah, and
This
I was
is
like, what is up with this?
this is such a story. I mean, a lot of you probably know this story already, but let's just kind of give you a really quick refresh, if just for those maybe who don't know or who have forgotten. But this lovely man that you see pictured here is really fond of his craft, which is baking cakes, cake baking with like designs. It's really cool. And back like a long time ago, 2012 or so, a gay couple came into his shop asking to have a cake baked, but they didn't want just a cake baked. They wanted to make sure that it basically had two males, kind of showing themselves getting married at the top. Like, it wasn't just bake us a cake. It was bake us a cake that says,
Right.
you know, being part of the Sodom and Gomorrah thing is all okay, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and so that's really important to note because the baker never said, "Hey, I won't bake a cake for people who are in a same-sex relationship." That was never the case ever. He
Right. Right.
doesn't discriminate. He just said, "I can't make a cake that glorifies something that, or makes seem acceptable, something that I absolutely cannot in my faith say is acceptable. That can't make an expression that says that." So they sued him, and this couple won at the local level, which was like a commission for like so-called anti-discrimination.
Right.
Then our baker appealed it and lost again, where the state court said, yeah, that's right, you can't refuse to make the kind of cake they want, even though there's a bunch of other places that would make the cakes that they want. You don't have to torture this man who says it goes against his conscience. And then he appealed it again to the Supreme Court of Colorado, which says, yeah, you better make that cake. You're going to owe a fine. So he appealed, and this was impressive because it almost never happens that the Supreme Court of the United States will take on a case, because they don't have to take on any cases, right, in general.
Right.
And they did, which was surprising to a lot of people. And the Supreme Court slapped them down, said, you're crazy. You can't tell him. It's his First Amendment right to not say what he doesn't want to say on a cake. He's not your slave. And he didn't discriminate against you saying, well, I don't serve people who have a certain sexual orientation. He just says, I don't want to bake a cake that says that.
Right.
Just like you might not want to bake a cake that says Yahtzees are cool. Or you don't want to bake a cake that says, I love clowns. Maybe you have a fear of clowns. You don't want a cake that says that. I can do any other kind of cake you want.
Right.
Just because you are a clown, you come in my shop wearing a clown outfit, I'm not going to discriminate, but I'm not going to make a cake like that. Go find someone who does make those kinds of cakes. And still he got sued again. Someone else came in, this time a transgender, saying make a cake that says, this is cool, and then I'm not going to say the word because we're a family show, but a sexual fetish item on the cake, which goes against his religious beliefs. It's disgusting. It's really foul. I won't say what it is. And like something else foul. And then they wanted to, I think, to say like he's announcing his transition from one, purported transition from one gender to the other, which, of course, we don't believe is possible. That seems to be more like a mutilation thing. And he didn't want to do a cake that said that. Like, hey, dude, I'll do another kind of cake for you. You want a cake that celebrates it. I just don't want to do a cake that says things that I can't really say as a Christian. Same thing happened. He got sued. Just recently, the Colorado Supreme Court, that got slapped down by the Supreme Court last time, has dismissed that case, although it's been years of fighting it. Finally, it got up to the Colorado Supreme Court. And I guess they still remember how they got slapped down by the United States Supreme Court. So they dismissed it, but on a technicality. They didn't come out and say he has the right to not put the kind of cake he wants. They just said, they made up some technicality because they don't want to actually admit that. But they also don't want it to maybe go to the Supreme Court again, and then this time look even more foolish. And they also can't just ignore what the Supreme Court ruling was. But it's so shocking, these people. This tells you that what they want is not equality, Fletcher. What they want, these radical people, is not. Why do you pick on this guy? Why are you targeting him when you have? I could see if he was in a rural area, there's no one else to bake your cake, or if he says, "Hey, I don't bake cakes for people like you." Now that's different. That would be unacceptable. As a Catholic, I would find that unacceptable. But you're telling him to bake a cake that says something that he honestly cannot, in his own expression, say. What is he, a slave?
Right, because it's, I mean, I think the funny thing is, because this is all that kind of stuff we were talking about it with a friend the other day, and about how all the stuff that is happening, this is not the LGBT, or the LGB, the first three letters supposedly, right? This is not it, because we don't know anybody that would do this, right? You don't have people, because these are people who won't I mean, you're not going to go to a Jewish baker and you go, hey, can you, do some, late Bavarian ruler that, has a love for
Yeah,
ancient
right.
Buddhist symbols.
What if you? I mean, that's a great point, Fletcher. I have a couple of points with that. Like, yeah, for sure. If you have, and there are people who have a fetish about that particular ruler, as you say, late Bavarian in the Second World War, who had a name that began with an H and wore a really funny mustache. There's people who strangely and perhaps, disgustingly have an obsession with that person. And maybe they do want, I mean, you've shown me pictures of people who wear uniforms like that,
Oh
like
yeah,
Yazis
yeah,
and
yeah.
things who like this kind of thing. But if you go to say, I mean, really anybody who has a good conscience, I'm not going to make that cake for you. You're going to say, oh, you're discriminating. Or what about this, Fletcher? Let's say you go to, going along the lines you just said, you go to a kosher restaurant, a
Right.
Jewish chef, and you say, make me a pork chops. You're a
Yep.
chef. Wait a minute. He says, look, I can make you a lot of food. I don't want to make pork chops. That's not on the menu for me. And I'm not saying I won't serve you because you're Christian. You can come as
Right.
a Christian to my restaurant, but please don't ask me to make something that goes against my religion. But you're saying, no, you go to the Muslim. No, make me a pork chop. That's what
Yep.
they're saying. They're saying, no, you don't just make me a cake. They could come up with all kinds of cakes. And you know what, Fletcher? They could easily put two men on the topping. They could do that themselves, but they want
Right.
him to do it. They want to force him because they're angry with him for having a Christian religious belief that they find offensive. So they want
Yep.
to make him change it. What kind of pluralistic society is that? How is that respectful? How do you think I'm going to respect you and you don't respect my religion?
Yeah, I mean, because and you can say it's a targeted attack. We see them over and over because this is not about like discrimination. It's not he's not the only baker. For one thing, he's not the only, definitely not the only baker in town. But also, he didn't like say, "Hey, I'm not going to do X or you're not going to do B." It was very specific what they wanted, and it was a targeted attack. I mean, this is basically the same thing as if you go into the vegan restaurant and you say, "Make me a steak." It's when you're turning me
Right,
away. But I think
right.
it's even more egregious because you're basically this was targeted because they didn't go to a Muslim bake shop.
No, they
Like you
wouldn't.
said, they didn't go to they didn't go to, they didn't say, oh, it's not haram. You didn't go to, like you said, a Jewish bakery where it's like everything's kosher,
And say
and use
I want I
unkosher
want a bacon
things.
cake, which by the way would be delicious. A bacon cake.
Yeah, bacon maple cakes. I know you had that one thing where you kept watching those baking shows, and it's like maple bourbon bacon cake is the thing. But that's the thing. You're not going to go to a Jewish or a Muslim bake shop and go make me a bacon cake, right? And
Right.
because the backlash would be severe. But this is what I think we're saying is that the backlash against Christians is acceptable in the United States.
Yes.
And we saw this because it's a weaponization of this. And for those who are said, hey, it's the equality thing, yeah, this is the pushback of that equality to where you're like, there's starting to be a little bit more of a pushback on our side where it was like, yeah, no problem, everybody is, love is love type of thing. But then it just became some stuff like this where people are getting attacked,
And now
right?
it's honestly, I think what they don't realize is that, which is completely, I think, contrary to their cause. You've made a lot of people who are just live and let live actually be more hostile to you because they think this is what your true agenda
Right.
is that you're not willing to live at peace with everyone else. You're not saying just let me be me and you mind your business, I mind mine. You're not. You're saying you must bend to my will. And that if you
Yeah.
don't do everything that I want you to do, I'm going to use the law. I'm going to use politics. I'm going to use my influence to make this poor man for 12 years, more than 12 years, 2012, or just about 12 years, yeah, suffer loss of time, money, probably good sleep, and maybe even reputation to some extent, although I think more people are on his side than against him because this is absolutely disgusting. This is a waste of court time. It's a waste of personal time because you want to make him say something that he doesn't agree with because in your view That's the worst thing ever, that someone may not agree with you, that someone
Right.
may not say that everything you do was completely hunky-dory with them. And he
Yeah.
still didn't have any ill will towards you. He just says, look, I can do a lot of cakes, I don't want to do that one. So I ask everyone, please pray for him. He's gone through a lot, and I think people are going to keep targeting him because they're so mad that they can't win. They did win. They won all the way up to the Supreme Court until they got slapped down, the United States Supreme Court, and now the Colorado Supreme Court. But guess what? I bet people will come back. It's like they're fun. Where's the recompense for this? By the way, where's the
Yeah.
recompense for, you did this wrong? That's not what business is supposed to be about in America. And you know what? I'm offended as a person of, being Black and, mixed race. I know that in this country, we work so hard to have accommodations so that people would not say, no people of color come into this restaurant, whites only and stuff like that. That is so disgusting how you're twisting it.
Right.
Because when our people, Fletcher, went to, back before the Civil Rights Acts and so forth, that let, people of color have fair and equal entry into public spaces, it wasn't us trying to turn these people. It wasn't like, you know what,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go to this Italian restaurant and you will make me chitlins. It's like, you will make me mofongo. No, we're saying whatever you already serve, please just treat us equally. We're not gonna say we want special rights. We don't want to change the way you do business. We're saying if we have the money and we can sit orderly like the rest of your customers, it shouldn't be an offense to you to, on a public road, when we have to travel like everyone else and sometimes need to get food, or need to be able to use the gas station or what.
Oh, I think you knocked a little bit out, Ursula. Can you hear us? Um
Religion.
oh,
Nobody
sorry.
felt that way.
You kind of broke off a little bit there, but I think I hear you just fine now. Do you want to repeat that last part?
I mean, it wasn't about us changing people's business models or saying that, they had to, change everything about their beliefs to serve us. We wanted to just be like everyone else. But the people who are suing this baker and who have sued them and who cheer it and
Right.
who think it's somehow wrong that he gets to assert that he doesn't want to, we don't want to put something. It's almost, to me, see, people don't realize freedom of speech is not just, I get to say some things. It also means you can't put words in my mouth. Like if you
Right.
tell me I want you, you must say, I think America is great. But if I want to go to a baker who says I want to write a cake for the 4th of July, let's say the baker is, someone who doesn't feel that strongly about America and says, look, I'll make you a cake, but I don't want to put down America's great. I don't feel comfortable with that. Do I
Right.
now sue them? I sue
Yeah.
them because how dare you feel, and I know it's not the same thing as someone's orientation. I know what's more important, your orientation, but the same idea is there because you're making him put words in his mouth that he doesn't agree with. And words are not just words, they can also be symbols or pictures. Don't make me say something I don't want to say. That's what
Yeah.
freedom of speech is also.
No, I mean I agree. I think it's egregious and obviously it's malicious,
It's
right? It's a
malicious.
malicious and
It's
it's
malicious.
you definitely have the intent um, to to hurt and like you said to um, it's not because you want it done and nobody else would do it. It's because you want to force the person to do it, and that's just not right. And
And
like I said, it's also a slap in the face because all the people who basically used the civil rights movement to do something like this, nobody would have done it. You know what I mean?
nobody would have done it. And you know what, Fletcher? It is a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to Martin Luther King Jr. It's a slap in the face to Cesar Chavez, to all the people who fought for equal rights. You guys are completely manipulating it. It's a slap in the face to someone like Harvey Milk. This is not what this was about. You shouldn't be trying to, make him, bend to your will, because he never denied you your dignity. All he did was deny you your request.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And something that was that hopefully somebody would deny this request. Canada, just what's Canada? Pray for Canada.
Oh my
Pray
gosh.
for our brothers and sisters in Canada.
What the heck,
Because
Fletcher?
this request to me, I was like, when you send
What's
me
going
this,
on?
I'm like, can you stop sending this stuff? It's just depressing.
Tell me,
Uh,
tell us about it, Fletcher.
so it says, can it stand? Is that a, can I just say, anybody who writes for the Gateway Pundit, they always have a flair to them, don't they? Canada stand out of control. Doctors repeatedly push assisted suicide to cancer patient, even though she keeps refusing it. It's like, there's memes out there like this,
You
or
shouldn't laugh.
but what else can you do? I mean, there's a Hippocratic Oath. If you guys don't know it, the Hippocratic Oath, says don't do any harms is what doctors have to swear by. And now you have, obviously deleting children, and now they want to delete adults. How much deletion do they need?
They got to keep deleting.
It just seems that way.
They got to be deleting.
Oh, as United Kingdom under the Labour Party falls prey to the culture of death and begins discussing legislation allowing assisted, deleting for terminal patients, Crazy Canada shows us how things rapidly escalate to the point where it's almost euthanasia by demand. It now arises that a woman undergoing cancer surgery in Canada was repeatedly offered assisted suicide twice by doctors before entering the operation room, and again during her recuperation. Okay, so that's the part that I guess I didn't quite understand, because she was recuperating from the surgery. So obviously it went well enough that she's recuperating. So it's like, well, we just spent so much money to help you recuperate. Have you
Why don't you just
about,
die? Why don't you just die? Have you thought about?
Have you thought about just taking off? Yeah.
Have you thought about just ending it all right now?
Right. In Canada, the number of people opting for medical assistance die. They even have, okay, so it's an acronym. That's messed up. And all maids should be up in arms, because medical assistant in dying is called MAID. Program has risen 13-fold from one. Are these actual numbers? 1,818 to 13,241 in 2022 is now the fifth leading cause of death in the country, and the fast and growing. No wonder they want to just bring everybody in. It's like, out with the old, in with the new.
And you know what's concerning? Well, there's a lot concerning. First of all, people who are sick are more vulnerable because you don't feel well as it is, and you already have oftentimes emotional disturbances from being sick, family issues, money issues. You already are at a low point. And so for someone at that point to then kind of put pressure on you to just say, you know what, just delete yourself. We can help you. That's what we have made, medical assistance of deleting yourself, medical assistance of, in dying. And that's what you should do. Instead of giving them hope, you're saying almost it would be easier for you just to get out of here. Or, you know what, you're a burden. That's what you are.
Right.
So let's just get rid of you. And you know what else is disturbing about that? Not only because that to me is unethical and it's exploitive. And who knows if they're really letting people have a chance to really reflect upon it. What if she said yes? Would they go do it then? What about her being able to talk to somebody like a rabbi or a priest or a pastor or a beloved person or a lawyer? Like you're just talking to her by herself. This shouldn't be allowed. I mean, normally you should have somebody as a buffer if that's not in her best interest. We should say, as a general rule, for the history of humanity, we have not considered deleting yourself as anything other than a negative. It's never anything positive. It's something we feel sorry about. It's something that at one point was considered illegal, and someone who did that didn't even get a burial. in most of Christendom and other places. It used to be if you deleted yourself, you couldn't even get insurance from it. It was never a positive. So here you're doing something that's unique in this time frame, and without her having he or she having any kind of person to be a buffer. But you know what's also bad about it, Fletcher? How much work are you putting into solving medical problems and learning? Because one of the ways that medicine gets better is by practice. That's why it's called the practice of medicine. It's
Mm,
not something you learn once and done. It's because of trying new things and putting it out there and going to the edge that you find out new techniques, new cures. It's not just something that happens in a lab or with textbooks. It's actually doctors in the field, practicing and finding maybe new ways to improve. But how much are you Canadian doctors going to be putting into improving care if your number one goal is, well, let's just have this person delete themselves? It makes me think you're going to be so retarded in like 20 years. They're going to be so behind every other medical facility that doesn't do this, because instead of having all your little interns learning, like, well, let's see, we have this problem, it seems really difficult, let's see if we can try something new. And especially with people who are dying,
right.
because maybe they're more willing to try and experiment. But you're not going to experiment, you're going to just delete them.
But that's the thing. When you're sick, you are sick. I mean, when people used to say, you're not in your right mind, you're sick, it's because, illness does things to humans. It doesn't, leave you the best of options. And imagine you're there, you're costing your family money, there's suffering, there's pain, you're at your lowest point. And you have a doctor who's supposed to be there to help you, but now he's there to say, hey, you know what? Those thoughts of insecurity, of depression that you were thinking, you were right on the money on that one. Let's just keep going. Have I told you about my Lord and Savior death? You know?
And that's what I'm saying, as opposed. But no, listen, but what about it really is a seemingly hopeless case? In addition to that, which is, let's say it is a hopeless case, you're not going to say, you know what, you want to fight? Let's see what we
Right. Yeah. I think you're cut off a little bit. Uh, I think
kind of
the
surgery that might work and maybe help other people, because you're
yeah.
not going to do all of that. You see what I'm saying?
No, no, I,
Because
I
it's too
understand.
easy. It's too easy to just say, okay, well, you know what? It looks hopeless. Let's just have you delete yourself. It makes for very poor it makes for very poor medical outcomes in general. Like everybody there should feel very concerned that you're not getting your best. It would be like if, I don't know, a lawyer, was representing your case maybe for a criminal matter or something, and if it's a little bit hard, they say, you know what? Let's just plead guilty and go to jail. You're like, wait a minute. I know the case might look bad, but can't you come up with some other argument or get another witness or bring some kind of motion or do something? Nah, no, you really should let's just have you plead guilty and just go to, but then you're not really, you never know by trying new things out. Who would want a lawyer like that? So
No, no.
why would you want a doctor like that?
Yeah, I mean, later on in the article, they said that they're recommending expanded assistant deletion to include minors. That's what they're doing in the UK and all stuff. And it's funny because there's always the extremes, right? Everybody's always talking about those rare diseases that have this excruciating pain with them, and all this kind of stuff. But they're doing stuff. I mean, they had, I think right now they're fighting in Canada because a woman with autism was, trying to be. They're trying to delete her in the hospital, and the father, I think, is trying to appeal it because obviously she has autism, so it looks like it's heavy onset of autism, and you're gonna be like, okay, yeah. Do you think it was easy for the doctors to maybe talk her into it, right? So you're like,
Pretty Pretty easy. Yeah. Because, she doesn't have full capacity. And I think what this situation shows, which is what I think they're getting at, when people, and I think it's this, believe it or not, this story links with the last story with the Colorado Christian baker. And hear me out. Because when certain less socially desirable um, initiatives come forward, whether that be for, rights of, you know, the LGBTQ, or in this case, those who want to assist dying, they all sound good on paper. Like, why
Right.
can't we be free? The person who wants to delete themselves, why won't you let them just get help to delete themselves? But you know what happens? It goes very quickly from why can't we be allowed to do what we want to you must do it. So you
Right.
go
You're a
from,
burden.
yeah, no, exactly. Now it goes from not just I have the right to delete myself to you need to delete yourself. It's just very
Right.
short step to that, because once something becomes legal, it becomes okay to push it on someone else. And
Right.
that's one of the reasons I think that certain people have been reluctant to embrace these things, because they saw that coming.
Yeah. No, it's fully seen as coming because a lot of people feel like we're not. Oh, you're not a very understanding person, or where's your empathy, right? And you're like, I understand where the empathy is, but have you not asked yourself how can this be used in the wrong hands? Because that's what this is right now. It's being used in the wrong hands. A doctor shouldn't be out here telling people to, I even heard one case where they were like, it's somebody that had depression. Depression? You're
Yeah.
gonna. I mean, what's stopping people from?
But
It's
see, that's my point too, Fletcher, though, because depression is difficult to treat, and it can be something that you have to really try throwing different things at. But if your first thing or one of your early things is, well, you know what, delete yourself, then you're
right,
not going to take the time to help that person find the right panoply of maybe drugs and change of behavior or conduct or environment that's going to help them with the depression. You're not as good a
right,
doctor as you would have been if you didn't have that option. Because if you didn't have the option to say, oh man, you've been depressed a long time, I think we should help you delete yourself, then you might say, you know what, I learned about this new protocol with light therapy. You know what? Should we try that? Maybe with exercise, maybe changing your diet. I heard this vitamin B injection might work. You might
now
actually
you're just
try.
going into quackery.
No, no, no. But I'm saying you be, even if it is quackery, you would be willing to try something because there's nothing else
Right,
working, and what else you're gonna do? But if your attitude is that it's a legitimate treatment to offer them to just, end themselves,
right,
then that's going to be the treatment option. You're not going to
pretty much,
actually
yeah,
ever. But if you try something that seems unconventional, that a lot of things that seemed like quackery before actually turned out to be really helpful. It turns out that people found out, oh wow, that actually did help. A lot of methods, a lot of them actually. I can't name all of them offhand. I know I was sort of, I felt like my mother was vindicated when a study came out saying that literally, Fletcher, chicken soup is good for a cold. And I thought my mother was telling me
right,
old wives' tale, but actually scientists say there's something in the chicken or turkey that's called tryptophan that actually does release your sinuses when they're clogged, and kind of clears mucus. And it's like, wow, they were right. So they say, yeah, that is a good treatment. But you know what, if you get a cold and it's like not going well, delete yourself. You're not going to try new things
right,
that might actually help. I don't think this is really good for medicine, and I think you're going to have a lot of young people who might choose medicine as a career who will not, who don't feel that
right.
that's very ennobling. You know what's ennobling? Someone like Dr. Ben Carson, who was at some point associated with Trump's cabinet, I think. I don't know, but he's
Yeah,
the African American doctor who performed the first successful separation of conjoined twins in the United States.
right,
Okay. So it used to be called Siamese twins. Nobody says that. They say conjoined. And he separated them with at the hemisphere, which was an area that was not used before, hadn't been done before. There's a great movie about it and a book about it. And that was a big claim to fame. I think doctors, especially at the highest end, they want to do something interesting and new and get out there and try something no one else did before, and go all or nothing, which is what this was about. He was so afraid, one or both of these girls would die who were conjoined, and he didn't lose either of them, and they were successfully separated, and they didn't have seizures anymore, or didn't have a seizure, which is what had happened before, or something like that. But if
Mhm.
again, if your attitude is one of fatalism, which is what this is, it's an anti-Catholic, anti-Christian mentality, it's an anti-human mentality of just give up.
Right.
You're never going to get the kind of spectacular result of a Ben Carson. By the way, no one's going to want to go into medicine that you're at the end of the day you're just going to be deleting people. That's
No,
boring. That's boring.
completely. No, it's uh, it's truly one of those sad things where you're kind of going, I don't think this is right, you know.
But you know what I think too, Fletcher? You tell me, because you're the one who gets into, like, you're very capitalistic. I mean, you are
uh,
like Mr. Capitalism. Do you think this came about because Canada had a socialist medical system and now they're finding it's too expensive, and that's why they're having people be deleted? Do you think that could be?
I mean, I think that's one of them. But Canada's always been the new government. I think has been going into this whole replacement thing where they're mad that they're they have less melanin, I guess, and so they're trying to get people from other countries to come into Canada to change the shades of Canada, and I guess in a sense, but part of it, I think it's yeah, it gets expensive to deal with this ailment. So when you're dealing in basically numbers to then, if it's just numbers and you got to pay for people anyway, isn't it cheaper to not pay for people? Right?
Right.
I mean,
That's the
so
logical conclusion. And didn't somebody say that was what would happen if we had socialized medicine here in the US? We have
that's
death panels. And that,
completely
yeah, it's like, well, we can't afford you, you know?
right.
And so we're gonna, you know what your only options are? You can either get deleted or go home and die
Right.
in pain. Pick your option. I mean, you guys really need to think about that. Really think about that. If you live in Canada or any country, including this one, that could go that route, you're gonna have to be very careful, because you are going to be at odds with your doctor, I think, because if they are going to be pushing something that is so, like, against your best interest, and maybe you have very few options, that
Right.
makes you wonder if you should even go to the hospital at all, which a lot of times people started saying they felt like that during the coof in
Yeah.
2020 already. They
No,
felt like
completely.
it wasn't in their best interest to go anywhere, because to have a doctor that seems to have another interest better than yours, right? That seems not necessarily motivated by any scientific inquiry. It has
Right.
nothing to do with your best care model. It has to do with certain protocols that their hospitals come up with, or their political ideas. It's not necessarily anything to do with you. And here you are in their hands. People who died alone, told their family couldn't come, or they had to get, the liquid in their arms,
Right.
um, in order to be treated for something that had nothing to do with that, which actually caused them more difficulties.
Right.
I mean, how can you trust doctors now? I mean, at that
Right.
point, and now you have some, they're willing to tell this woman who they just did a surgery on, who's recuperating, as you put it, Ledger. That means she made it through. She
Right.
might actually have a few more years to live. Oh, why don't you delete yourself? Uh,
Right. No, it's uh yeah, it's one of those things. Like I said, it wasn't the most interesting uh, a little bit of the depressing thing. So one of the things I was looking up a little bit, people were talking about this. It was just the other day that uh, our President Trump said
Former
this.
Fletcher,
Former president.
former.
All
You're
right.
getting you're
Well,
getting ahead of yourself.
that's
Former
fine.
President Trump.
That's fine. Calling the things that are not as though they were.
Oh my
This
God.
Saturday, October 19, the 40th anniversary of martyrdom of Father Jersey. I'm gonna not butcher the last name, Father. A truly gay Catholic priest who was the source of tremendous spiritual strength from the Polish Solidarity movement and indeed the entire nation of Poland in the 1980s. Yesterday in Chicago, I was honored to sign a commemoration about the solemn anniversary of the President uh, and receive a book from Father Jersey Sermons and beautiful mementos. Remember for his life, extraordinary man of historical virtue. And this goes more along the lines of stuff that we've been saying that President Trump is dabbling in Catholicism, as should we say. Um,
He's doing a really good I think the way you say that name, by the way, before we go, Popilusco. Can you
what
go
was it?
back, Fletcher? What was that? Somebody who speaks Polish. I think it's Polish.
Yeah,
Um, please do us a solid and tell us how to pronounce that. Okay, give us a kind of phonetic phonetic spelling. Let's see if we can learn from you. That would be really, really good. We'd appreciate that. Um, I think that President Trump is, well, now you have me saying it. I think former
see,
President Trump, I think former President Trump is doing a couple of things here because one, he is signaling his acceptance of the idea that Catholics might be in support of him. I think he wants to court Catholics. I
right.
also think that he is showing that communism is not, what his agenda includes at all. He's
Hmm.
called Kamala Harris his contender in this race a communist more than once. In fact, I heard him say it just the other day again. Now,
Right,
at first, I didn't see any evidence of that. I thought that was a little bit out beyond the pale when he said it at the debate. But now that time has gone on, it doesn't seem like he was completely off base, and she's never denied it, by the way. So I mean, apparently, her father is one, I don't know, or advocates for it. So I think by him, bringing up this great priest, Father Jersey, who was very much against communism, just like Pope John Paul II, which you have a picture here in the upper left corner here,
right,
is maybe a signal to people too of what kind of politician he wants to be, is more in line of this, what kind of
right.
statesman he wants to be. So
No, I agree, and I think it's also nice, for fallen priests to get a little bit of recognition. It's it's not easy for all the things that they have to do. So I was very happy to see that,
yeah, I'm happy to
and
see that. That's
it
good.
it could it could hopefully it ushers a change. And I know that
And you know what else, Fletcher? Just before we move on from that, I think
mhm,
we're not gonna probably cover it tonight. I don't know if we will, but recently the Los Angeles diocese, I think maybe yesterday, pretty recently, just settled cases involving abuse, of minors. And we could probably do a whole show about what that's about and how that came to be. And it was a substantial settlement to settle those legal cases. And the church is taking a hit with that, and a lot of it is really deserved. Um, because the way some of that stuff was handled and the kind of terribly egregious acts that certain people who were given this position of trust, and especially being honored by God to be one of his
right,
holy priests, to violate both the Christian law and also the natural law and the civil law, to do the horrible things that they did. It's nice to have a priest that was faithful and holy and cared about people, be honored.
right.
So I think
No,
that's good.
totally. Yeah, yeah. And speaking about priesthood honor, so today was the All Smith dinner, and as you know, we talked about it before because Vice President Harris did refuse to go. I guess now she did do a video, which I didn't even know that was an option. To do a video. This is,
She's
it's a fancy dinner to raise money for charity, and usually part of the grandstand is that you get the presidential candidates to come, and this has been going on for years. This is a Catholic charity in New York, and everybody goes. I mean, the last one was Hillary and Trump, and they both roasted each other, and it's all very tongue in cheek. It's all very civil, and the fact that she didn't go, I think a lot of people are saying that should tell you, as a Catholic, who to vote for, right? And
Right.
this was some of the roasting. I guess Chuck Schumer was there, and he was there, and he got roasted because it's funny. We should have like the clip of Michael Scott say roast it, right?
We should.
Here
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, are you gonna play this for us, Fletcher?
Yeah. Can you hear
Okay. Not yet.
it? Okay.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
That's messed up.
And I actually said, do you mind if I do that? He said, no, you got to do what you got to do. He's a pro. He's a professional. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum.
But as you see, it's ribbing. This is,
That's awesome. That's crazy.
It's just, it's ribbing that, people does. I mean, she had the chance to go in there and do her own ribbing,
Right. Right.
I guess part of the night kind of went on in it. And this was the White Dudes for Harris. As you know, they had that, some White Dudes for Harris, some actors, and it was like a thing. They also had actors come in and give some kind of telethon.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
Oh my gosh, that's racy.
Oh my gosh.
That's racy.
Right?
In front of the priest. Oh my goodness.
Well, and that's it. It's just, it's New York. That's the kind of thing. It's New York, and they don't mess around. Part of the whole thing, I think, also was remember we did a short about Gretchen Whitmer, right? Of the whole communion thing. Go check it out in our shorts. And he talked about that.
Leading big with the Catholic vote, as I should be. But I don't think Kamala has given up yet. She hasn't. Instead of attending tonight, she's in Michigan receiving communion from Gretchen Whitmer. That's not a pretty sight. But Catholics, please don't be too insulted by Kamala's absence. If the Democrats, he says, thank you very much, I appreciate it. If Democrats really wanted to have someone not be with us this evening, they would have just sent Joe Biden.
I'm telling you, it's.
How could she miss this? This is actually fun.
Well, everybody says she's a little wooden, she's a little thing, so this would have been a great opportunity. But this, I think,
some jokes. Yeah,
I think this was her answer to it. So I think this was it, that she made this kind of skit with like a Saturday Night Live style or something.
Interesting.
This one, I won't play the whole thing. It's kind of long, and we might get clips for it, so I'll just.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Gallagher. Mary Catherine Gallagher. It's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now, I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Sometimes when I get nervous, I stick my fingers under my arms and I simmer them like that. But that's gross.
So tell me something. I'm giving a speech. Do you have some thoughts about what I might say tonight?
My feelings about what you should say tonight would be best expressed in a monologue from one of my favorite made-for-TV series.
Okay, let's hear it.
What do you think about this? I mean,
I think isn't that a famous character from SNL?
yeah, it was. I
think
mean,
she used to do that gesture of sniffing her armpits before. I've seen that before.
yeah, it's the awkward Catholic kid, right? It's the jest of the, the Catholic scare. I mean, it goes with their campaign thing where they say, JD Vance is weird, right? He's Catholic, he's weird.
Right.
So I guess this is the skit, right? That hey, let's bring in a comedian who played a weird Catholic. So to me, this you don't go to the dinner. Sit down. I mean, the whole reason for the dinner is to raise money for charity. It's not for the campaign. It's always done in good fun. There's always people ribbing back and forth on both sides. The reason of the dinner is because, people pay a lot of money to bump elbows with, rich and famous folks. Right?
Right.
And it's a tradition for, I think it's over 60 years or something like that. But you do this instead. You do like a video. It's not a Zoom like meeting.
No, it's not a Zoom meeting. It's a little bit awkward. It's almost as awkward as the girl playing, the awkward teenager there. It's a bit awkward. And not comfortable on her feet. She doesn't want to expose herself.
It's scripted.
Yeah, to something unscripted. Right. Yeah.
And she's all like, we need a woman to represent us and feel dominated by men. It's like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah. I don't know why she didn't just go, because already there's a sense in which she seems to be a little anti-Catholic. I mean, people remember how she basically, kind of grilled someone about being in the Knights of Columbus, which is about as innocuous an organization you can be part of. I mean, it's a charitable men's organization that raises money for, important causes in the community, like, for example, people with disabilities or children. And it's like, are you kidding me? That's what concerns her. And then you don't go to the dinner. It's something very strange about that. Like you say, it's mostly for fun. I mean, what you showed was really fun, but I think it's kind of like what you say. I think she doesn't want to be exposed to having to think on her feet, maybe, or be roasted, which makes you wonder, women, if you're going to run for office, you got to be able to hang with the big boys. That means you have to be willing. I mean, I think, right. Hillary Clinton did it. Like, you have to be ready to maybe face a little bit of ribbing and, have to put up with that. You can't just avoid it and do your own little video like this. It's a little weird. So you're showing it now.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, to me, it's just, it feels so cringe,
Eminence and distinguished guests, the Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship and come together to do some good.
Yeah, but you're not there, right? You're recording this like you're in a Zoom call.
No.
I don't know. I think it's more insulting than actually not showing up, but that's just me. So you want to get down to these interviews? So here we go. This was the first one. When Trump did this, you knew the Bloomberg editor was cooked. This was, I guess, the Trump, suppose you Google Donald Trump discussion with Bloomberg's John forget that. M on the Economic Club of Chicago today, in case you see that everyone in the position pressed through, he crumbled to the form. Kamala Harris was invited, but she declined, likely because she lacks the intelligence to engage in the economic discussion. We're at a point where we know, you think town hall's a little biased. We're at the point where you know just a tad. Whenever the establishment writes about Trump. So I guess this was Mark Levine who said, I'm watching this guy in question President Trump in Chicago ostensibly. Aha. Got it. But economic policy and virtual every question out of his mouth is screaming hostile, and his attitude is condescending, and output is perfect illustration corrupt media aggregated to this. So I guess it was, I don't know if you watched it. There was a lot of kind of like give and take on this. But let's check out some of it.
So on that note, let me invite onto the stage President.
For everything. So I've been talking about this, and I said to him about 9 months ago, I said, you know what? I want you to do me a favor, John. His name is John. I don't want to give his last name because he might not like it. But I said, I want to see an auto plant. I want to go and see one of these, you press a button and everything works, right? I want to see one of the big ones. He said, all right, good. I said, where do we go? I'd like to go to Michigan. I'd like to go to someplace in the United States. He said, no, we can't do that. Why? We're not building anything big in the United States. That's not where we don't build the big ones here. I said, where are you building the biggest ones? He said, in Mexico. We're building giant plants, the biggest plants anywhere in the world. In Mexico, I said, so you mean they're going to make cars cheaply? They have advantages over labor and other things. And they're going to sell them into the United States, and they're going to put Michigan out of business. Is that what? I don't know anything about that. All I do is build the plants. If you want to see a plant, we'll go to Mexico. I'll show you the biggest plant in the world. That was 9 months ago. I saw him, and I talked about it all the time because I think it's a serious threat to our country, because not only autos, but other things. So then I see him 2 days ago. I was talking at another club, very nice club. And like this, except, I don't know, I think you people are probably even wealthier, okay?
That's the beginning and stuff. So you can see he's kind of, he's giving him a chance. But it kind of like declined, I guess, later on.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people. There are business
You're wrong.
people.
You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this stuff.
Oh, I love it. You know what? He was in rare form, fighting fit in this interview. 80 years old, close to that anyway. Hanging in there toe to toe with this interviewer who clearly had some hostile issues. It wasn't a friendly interview. And I think he makes a good point about John Deere because, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Roger and Me, Fletcher, but it's very devastating when a company that employs a lot of people decides to pull up stakes and then go overseas. The people, have lost their jobs. We've lost some stability in the community. We've lost something that was made in America. And, Trump has said that he wants to address that. And I don't know how effective it would be to have tariffs. I don't know all the economics of that, but at least to me, I think there's something positive about his addressing it, because there should be some responsibility, I think, for a corporation to consider how people rely on you. I mean, it's not just about making money. That's obviously the primary, but it can't be the only. That's why we have certain governance rules for a reason. We really do need that. And hey, if you're going to do it, like, Trump is saying, then you're going to pay. We're going to put a tariff so that it'll be not as effective for you to do it. We're going to rob you of the opportunity of selling United States. By the way, we're not unique in this. Apparently it's very difficult for an American company that sells wine to sell it in France. France protects their own product. Like they put tariffs. So by the time you buy an American bottle of wine, as good as it might be from like a vineyard in California, some wonderful, 100, 200-year-old vineyard, you're not going to do that because it costs so much in France to buy an American bottle of wine, because they want to make sure you buy from French vineyards, from French companies.
Oh yeah.
And so if a French company says, you know what, I'm going to start making this wine in America because it's cheaper there than in France, well, guess what? They're going to put a tariff on it so that people don't have an incentive to purchase your wine, which is not from the country as opposed to others. That's not strange. So and it seems to make sense. It seems like other people do it. You know, it's not. People say, oh, well, it's kind of some. I've heard some people who are against Trump say that's a very stupid idea, but actually, I don't think that it is. And you have to remember, he does have a background in economics. He did go to the Wharton School.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, not a big fan of tariffs. You know, it kind of squashes some markets, I think. But when you're in a dire strait where, you know, everything is flooding into America, America is not flowing everything out, then you got to do something. I guess this was the part where they talked a little bit about immigration.
I want a lot of people to come into our country, but I want them to come in legally. I don't want to have.
But that means you will have to deport. You know, you are talking about deporting 11 million people. That is a lot of people to take out.
It came out last week that 425,000 people are horrible criminals at the highest level, but it came out that 13,099 were let in during their administration. They tried to say longer, wrong. Over the last 3.5 years, 13,000 plus people came in, murderers. They're in jail for murder. Some were having the death penalty. They were all released into our country. 13,099 people were released into our country. We had drug dealers released. We had street gangs released. Look at what's happening in Aurora, but now I don't have to go with Aurora anymore. Look at what happened last night in Times Square, where rough migrants from all over the place. You know, it's not just South America. We have people coming in from the Congo, large numbers from the Congo and Africa. They came in, as of last night, I was speaking to Tom Homan, 180 countries, people came in. They came from prisons and jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, a step above.
Yeah, I mean, he's got numbers. He seems sharp. So I think that
I mean, it's a very reasonable. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Fletcher. It seems
No,
like
go
a very reasonable proposition that you might vet the people coming into your country.
that's just crazy talk.
I'm really that you don't have people who might be undesirable. We don't have to take people in that are undesirable. No country feels that they have to take anyone that they don't want who's not already a citizen. And that's what he's saying. I mean, I was surprised by what he said because I did think that Trump was anti-immigration. Honestly, I thought he would have been, but he said he's not. He's against illegal immigration. And because you can't vet the people, among other things. And that seems that seems kind of low key. I think that's what most Americans believe, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you don't want, basically you want, I mean, who's coming into your house if you don't even know that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's controversial. That's the thing that I don't understand. How is that controversial that you want somebody to, who is it that's coming into your house? I don't know. So Ms. Harris, Vice President Harris was also grilled. They obviously didn't go together. I think she was invited also to go to the Bloomberg one, which is an economic forum. She chose to go on Fox, and I guess this was the debate, and everybody's, I think, on the left are praising her for going on Fox because of the, seen as hostile territory, right? Even though we know Fox is, pretty a little bit, they do have left-leaning and very liberal pundits, I guess you would say. This is not the most liberal pundit, but he's a little bit. It's definitely not a Tucker Carlson figure, right? Shall we say? But
sure. I mean, I'm not familiar with him, to be honest with you. I've heard that he's a never Trumper. I
Yes.
heard that he, interestingly enough, called the race in Arizona for Biden before the votes had even been counted, which was
Right.
strange. But that's about all I've ever heard about this guy.
Yeah, so it's, this whole thing that Fox does, which I guess I don't know, because I don't see nobody from the right in CNN, right? I don't know why Fox does that, but I guess, that's their whole fair and balance, right?
Illegal immigrants, would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a
which
number.
is-
Do you
but-
think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of 6
system
million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants.
Now, what do you think about that? Because some people are saying that, he was a little bit too aggressive. He should have let her finish. She was able to throw a little shade at that.
Well, that's kind of her thing, right? I mean, there was some time before where she said, I'm talking, right? What was that? Like,
Right. I'm speaking.
I'm speaking. What was that? I forget.
I don't know, but I thought it was, I don't know. Was it the last when they had the debate and he pulled it out? Trump pulled out the whole "I'm speaking here."
I don't think it was this. Oh, he did. Yeah, I think he.
Yeah,
maybe,
that was funny.
But I think it was from before. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it was a little aggressive, sure, on his part. I think that but she has a habit we have seen of not answering a question.
right.
So I'm not going to hold him to it too much and say that he was being a little perhaps too aggressive when you consider that you have to nail her down, because she does have a habit of gliding past the question sometimes.
Very nice. I like that. I like she glides. She's gliding in the questions. All right, let's see.
To be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called
And-
the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding,
But
please?
here, but
But
this,
you have to let me finish.
you had the
please.
White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things.
I mean, on that one, I do feel that maybe she's getting, a little bit railroaded, I guess, in a sense.
I think
If you
so
wanna
too.
be
I
fair.
think, to be fair, and we do aim to be fair at Indignant Desert Birds.
Fair and balanced.
I think it's kind of clear where we fly and how we fly. We don't fly left that much. I fly in the middle more than you. You fly
Very
more
much
to
so.
the right.
I
But
fly no to the extreme right. Let's not get it twisted. My right is like, to me, this is like not even right. This is like, to me, this is extreme leftist. So
So listen, but I think you're right. We try to be fair. I think it was a bit much. Yeah, I think she was right this time. You are interrupting her. Let her finish one thought. That's not fair. Let her get through her thought, and then attack.
Right, and I think what he was going in this, like he knows that there's limited time. You have limited time because I heard that it was even cut short. And so you have limited time. You have somebody who's gonna want to wiggle out of it of the question. So he's trying to like, I think I know where your answer is. This is my specific. This is my questions specific, and I guess it goes on. They're talking about the new Way Forward campaign, I guess, that she's pushing now, and this was a little bit of it.
Exhausted of Brett.
More than
People
70%
are
of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track.
So I guess this is kind of what was brought up, and it's talking about this poll, I guess, that Marquette did, and it was asking, is the country on the right track? And of those surveyed, they said that 79% is going on the wrong track, right?
Oh, really?
So, yes, I mean, a lot of people are, dismayed about what's going on. I mean, the gas prices, food prices, education, the border, crime. Because later on, I did see that they just, those crime statistics that supposedly crime is down. Now,
Right.
they're saying, "Oh no, that's not right." I'm gonna see if I can bring it up. And now they're saying, "Look, this crime statistic that crime is down were wrong. That they added that." So
Surprise, surprise.
surprise, surprise. All right, let's see how she answers this.
If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Yeah, and people have been saying that I think they caught her like 50 something times in the short interview, blaming Trump, right?
Right.
And it's like, I mean, if you were her, how would you answer that question? You're like,
it would be hard to answer the question, but I think you have to actually directly answer it and say what it is that you can own up to, how you would do it differently, as opposed to constantly going to devolve to your your opponent, your competitor, and saying what he didn't do or what he's not doing. And I think that's a good question to her, saying what they're going to turn a page when you're the page. You're the one who's been in office. So yeah, I mean,
but now you can see the style. Like, he has to get something out of you because she's not even answering the question. She's like, well, my opponent is like, but where I'm asking you. So I almost feel his frustration on this one. I feel like this one is like, come on, you're not even answering the question. It's like, are you even taking this seriously? I don't know. This one.
But she's trying to do her talking points. She has a script.
Yeah, that's not an interview, though. You can't just give all scripts in your. I mean, look, in the other one, Tom was, we couldn't play the whole thing, but Trump is basically, the guy was like, trying to grill him, and he would just answer his questions. You can't always just do talking points. Sometimes, you gotta speak, how they say, from the cuff, right?
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become. But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, exhausted of Brett.
More than 70%.
It's like, how is it? I don't know.
I think she definitely. Okay, so here's the thing that's so crazy about how things go now. The people on the left say she did amazing. The people on the right said she did terrible. it's like we don't even look at the same, event in the same way. It's sort of kind of the divide is becoming so extreme. I think she did do well in some parts. I think she did not so great in others. You definitely saw her lose her cool a little bit,
Right.
and that's probably not good for her. But overall, does it really change too many people's minds? Maybe. I don't think it'll change a lot.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, she talks about the border, but it's a little bit of more word salad. But like we said, this is my buddy in Twitter, Black World, Black Word Bound. He was saying if they win, they'll censor the internet, so we can never call them out again. Media shows are worse than the pimps and drug dealers that should face severe consequences. And what he's talking about is Amuse is. It's a fellow that digs a lot of, how should we say this, weaponized autism, I guess, buddy. And he started looking at, this is what the media coverage is. Like we said, a lot of media coverage thought she did great on the left. And if you see here, the new word of the day is tasty. Testy. Testy,
Oh,
So
testy.
now she's like, so before, remember, it was Joy, I guess, and then it was like JD Vance and Trump are weird, and everybody was weird. So now it's testy. So Kamala Harris spars with Fox News anchor in testy interview, CNN. Business Insider, Kamala Harris defends economic plan in testy Fox News interview. News and Press Now. Harris interviewed with Fox News is marked by testy exchanges over immigration and more. Newsmax. VP Harris gets testy in Fox News interview. AP News, which if you don't know, AP News is like where a lot of the local news and everybody gets their news from, the Associated Press. Harris interview with Fox News is marked by testy exchanges over immigration and more. I mean, we have our marching orders, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You don't
She definitely,
dislike
she
the media
definitely.
enough.
No, you can't. You can't dislike them enough. No, you can't dislike them enough.
Yeah.
Never think you have to dislike them enough.
Yeah, so I was talking about partly on the remember we were talking about kind of like the crimes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I guess this is what people were saying. This was talked about. This is from reporter Liz Wheeler. And it says that the FBI found an additional 1,689 murders, 7,780 rapes, 33,000 like robberies, 3,700 aggravated assaults in 2022. So violence crimes skyrocket under Kamala Harris. So this was, I guess, the newfound stuff.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah. So they found like there was an error supposedly in the crime data. So FBI quietly revises. So now the word is revised, right? It's not, oh, oops, we're hiding it. It's revised. Quietly revised the 2020 violent crime data, revealing increase in rising transparency concern. These are two headlines, by the way. U.S. added 818,000 fewer jobs than reported earlier, issuing revised figures from the Labor Department. Because remember, the other thing was like we didn't lose jobs, even though the jobs that they were marking for Biden were basically people returning for work, right? That were just kind of like on FMLA and stuff. But now that even also is low. So this is the crime prevention research.org. The revised data shows what the percent of change of crime rates between 2021 and 22. And we see a little bit of the difference, right?
Yeah, totally. And we always knew that was suspect during that debate when the smarmy moderator said, well, FBI statistics, they say they're down. We knew there was going to be more to that story.
Right. Yeah. So obviously that's, and later I think other people were talking about how shoplift and foreign burglary teams, it's like they're not even like actually recording some of those. There's actually teams now. If we have friends that are Leos, and we know that there's teams of Honduran, Venezuelan gangs, Haitian gangs, and all stuff that are organized crime that are going to cities and breaking into places and stuff like that. Uh, this is all avoidable, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's got this is just crazy.
I mean,
I'm,
anybody who's here illegally in particular, that if you weren't here, it wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be that extra, there is nothing that, we can say that you would not be here to cause that problem if you just hadn't crossed illegally. So I have to say, yeah.
Yeah, and you told me about this also. So remember that JD Vance article debate when he was with somebody, I think on CBS or something like that, and they were like saying that's just one thing in Colorado. It's just a few stings in Colorado, and they have it under control. And JD Vance was like, "Do you listen to yourself? Just these are people who shouldn't even be here. Just
Right.
anything
Just
having."
just a few. There
Just
shouldn't
a
be
few.
any. It shouldn't be
There shouldn't be
any.
any. But now we find out that not only there was place here, they're trying to take over stuff in Texas. They try to take a 4-apartment complex in San Antonio.
Wow, that's insane.
And Trump was just talking about the one from New York. I didn't even pull that one up, but this. What is this? You shouldn't even be here.
I mean, it's a dangerous situation. I think this is going to blow up. I'm so sorry for the people who have to deal with this. And people in apartments already have a lot going on. I mean, they already are most times just trying to make ends meet. It's not like they have a lot of extra money, and now someone takes over. I mean, I also feel bad for the people who own these buildings, because they took them to make a profit, to provide something for housing, and then these nasty people, these monsters really, who take it, because a lot of them are this article talks about how these gangs are not just like West Side Story, right? They're not just snapping their fingers and having little turf wars. They actually are involved in serious crimes of drug and most importantly, people trafficking, human
No,
trafficking,
yeah, completely.
including with children.
No, very much so.
So they're abusive, they're assaulting, they're nasty, they're monsters, and we're actually having to deal with that, and shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be here, and they wouldn't if they came through legal immigration, because they would never have qualified. Many of them were gangs back in their country.
Right.
So during the vetting process, you would more than likely discover that, or you would hope you would, and they wouldn't be here in any number.
Yeah,
But
and it goes
right.
to. I mean, basically, it's one of those things that I always say. It's like this whole idea of that open border is not a just and right border. You guys are saying, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, with immigration and all stuff, if you have an open border, that's not humane. It's not humane for the people crossing. It's not humane for the government. It's not humane for anyone, because what they're doing is you're intensifying criminal activity to happen by having gangs basically kidnap people, which they do, and they go ahead and they brand them here, and they send them to areas and then enslave them here. I mean, we're talking about real slavery that's happening in the United States of America. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know. This one, it kind of gets me crazy, because I don't understand. I know a lot of us Catholics want to help people, and that is beautiful. We should help people. I don't think doing something like this helps them, because what are you doing? You're not helping people if you can't even know who the people are. That's just crazy. I wanted
I
to
like
touch
the
this.
way I like the way one priest said it. I thought that was very enlightening. He said, as a Catholic, if someone's in your country, or in your home, you're not in your home, but like
Mhm.
in your borders,
Right.
that needs some kind of basic help like medical care, food, clothing, you
Right.
have to provide it because God does not like that. You
Yeah.
have to take care of the stranger, but there is no obligation for us as Catholics to take them in the first place. So you have
Yeah.
every right to protect your sovereignty of your borders. You have every right to keep people out. You have every right to return them. But if it's inhumane, like, you still give even your enemy water, right? You still have to, like, if they're here, you still have to take care of them, but you have no obligation to say they have to stay. And especially if their countries, like, it would be inhumane, let's say, if people had escaped here from North Korea,
Right.
because what they're going back to is evil. You should try to deal with that, unless they're criminals, in which case then that's where they should go. But other people, they're going back to countries that maybe they're not as economically viable as the United States, but they're not really in danger there. They are not really refugees here. They're not needing asylum. They just have a country they don't like as much as they would like the freedoms that we have here, which they're helping to remove by being here, by
Yeah.
ruining. They can go back home and fix the home they came from. Fix where you are. You're not
Yeah.
going to
And
fix
also,
it over here.
that's what we were talking about last time. How people were taking Pope Francis' words out of context, because basically what he was saying is you shouldn't let somebody die, like what happened in Tunisia with some immigrants passed away because the care that they were given. And people are like, Pope is for open borders. Like what we were saying earlier with the disingenuous flyer.
I mean,
It's
honestly, I don't know where the Pope stands in general about this, but I agree with you, Fletcher, that that statement definitely wasn't necessarily an endorsement of open borders, because it is true. It's very now clear to me. The clarification has been made. You cannot treat the stranger, even if he has no right to be there, wrong. You've got to give some basic things. I mean, they did violate the law in coming, but if they need food and water, like, you've got to basic medical care. I think you do. They say you have to, because it says those kinds of deprivations cry out to God for vengeance, and you don't want that from God. So you're going
right.
to have to give them the basics, but it doesn't mean you have to give them Shangri-La like they're giving them now in New York, in Massachusetts and Maine, all kinds of like apartments and luxury stuff that even the citizens don't have. you know, Debit cards full of money, that's not required.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Uh, uh, yeah. I'm just kind of with it all, because it does seem like this is such a ridiculous thing. But we've been hanging out for a while, and it is a little bit late. And I wanted to thank everybody for joining us for our late edition. We
But
would
we
love to
do
hang
want to
out a little bit
say,
more.
we do have to say that we need to talk about Miss Williams. So Bevelyn Beatty Williams is in need of your prayers. She's also in need of your financial support if you're able to do it. In brief, because we'll probably be talking about her again.
Right.
But just to give you the brief take right now, the lovely young woman you see there with her husband and her little kid, her daughter, has just been sentenced to more than 3 years in prison for her praying outside of an abortion clinic in protest for abortion. This woman has no criminal history. She is not a violent offender. She merely violated the FACE Act, FACE, just like the face, it stands for something we can tell you about later, which has been used to weaponize the law against pro-life people. And we have seen this before. We've seen grandmothers praying the rosary in front of abortion clinics or in the lobby, being charged with this horrible law, which is, I think, unconstitutional, because it definitely stops people from expressing their free speech and is selectively enforced, because you don't see them stopping, people from, with respect to pro-life centers, or, stopping that. But if someone is praying or in the way, even if you have to go around them, they consider that blocking their path. And we have seen, Fletcher, people, get sentences in even federal court much less than this who literally did heinous crimes like fraud
Right.
or discharging a weapon or possession of a firearm. I've seen people get, a year for possession of a firearm who is a felon, and this woman has no criminal record and is going away and just went to prison recently. Her husband dropped her off. He gave a very moving testimony in, like, I guess maybe on X, on social media, about how they tried to do everything right. They got married before they had kids. They're Christians. And now they're going to make him a single dad by putting her away from her 2-year-old daughter for 3 years, which is a tender years, to lose her mom because she believes that life should be protected from conception to natural death, and wanted to express, her beliefs about that, and maybe even help somebody. And that's disgusting. I think that the judge was clearly sending a message, and this was overstepping. I don't think this is something that should last on appeal. I hope not. And I think hopefully the first thing Trump does if he wins is pardon this woman. If anyone deserves a pardon, what kind of country are we that we had the summer of love where you had people in BLM loot and burn? We had Antifa loot and burn, and nobody went to jail, or if they did, they got like slaps on the wrist. But this woman prays in an abortion clinic and goes to prison for years. Like, that's unheard of. Please, if you're listening to this, we have on the side here, Fletcher has put up her Give, Send, Go, which is an alternative to GoFundMe. I think a lot of Christians use that kind of system because it's been more fair to people who are not on the left. If you remember the truckers in Canada who were protesting during the CUF, GoFundMe took the money that was raised for them in obedience to like the Canadian government, which was against the truckers. So some people now use this site called Give, Send, Go. And if you put https://givesendgo.com/Bevelyn is her name, Bevelyn, Beatty, Beatty Williams, normal spelling. You can help her out and her family out with their legal case.
Right. And no relation to me. I'm not.
Nor I. We're not related. I would be proud to be related to her. I would claim her in a second. I'm going to claim her as our cousin, but we're not related to her.
And this is the husband.
So right now, I'm about to drive my wife to a federal facility. She has to surrender herself there, and this is due to the Harris-Biden administration. And any husband in this country, anyone that's married knows, any mother, any father knows that separation from your loved one, separation from a mother and a daughter at 2 years old is traumatic, and no American citizen should have to experience this in this country. Obama has the audacity to speak to black men and tell black men they need to vote for Kamala Harris, when Kamala Harris administration has separated me from my wife and my wife from her daughter at 2 years old for unlawful assembly. My wife is facing 3.5 years for unlawful assembly and federal time, y'all. Okay, federal time. And it's devastating for our family, but we're going to get through this. But I want people to know in this country, mothers, fathers, single mothers, that this cannot be tolerated. And you should not vote for Kamala, because voting for Kamala would do things like this, right? It's unacceptable. And that's what I have to say.
I mean, it's really heartbreaking. And please, anything you can do to help her. I think she reached part of her goal. But we don't know how much is going to be needed.
She should get all the donations, because you know what? This is a complete injustice. It's a horrific injustice. As he stated, it was the crime she was charged with is so-called unlawful assembly. Okay, it's unlawful for her to assemble, which I don't even know with whom she was assembling. I don't think anyone else was charged with her for expressing her belief that abortion is wrong, immoral, just like somebody might have done during slavery times, like maybe gone to an auction house and said, I'm going to pray here. I think this is wrong. And it took many years for people to see that, yeah, you know what, slavery is wrong. And it's not okay to say, well, if you don't like slavery, then don't have slaves. Sorry, there's a human being that has nothing to do with you that I feel should be protected, just like she felt the baby in the womb should be protected. I'm going to go protest. And you charge her with unlawfully assembling and then put her in prison for not a couple months, not a probation, not a fine, not a class, but 3.5 years.
No.
That's unheard of. It's outrageous. It's so completely, it's when you have something that unjust, and you have to know they are coming for us. And he's not wrong in saying this turned my stomach, because that is under Biden. They are so mad that Roe v. Wade was overturned a couple of years ago, that's when this got activated. Now the FACE Act existed before then, but it wasn't used very strongly as it is now. I've seen it been used many times now against innocent people with no criminal history whatsoever. And this judge had the nerve to not even let her stay out with her baby, with her husband and child, while awaiting the appeal. Said you have to go to jail now, as though she were some violent offender that you can't trust out while you wait for the appeal. Are you kidding me?
It's crazy.
This is the Kamala Harris administration. I'm sorry. So that if they have to know, they just made us their enemy. As a person of color, as a Catholic, that is outrageous. I was willing to suspend my, feelings about Kamala to give both sides a chance, and I was undecided. I really was, as you know, Fletcher, much to your chagrin. This is a deciding factor. That's against Kamala, that you would have an administration. You know very well what you're doing. You have weaponized this against people you don't agree with, and you want to put it in their face. If you're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, great. This is what we're going to do to you. How dare you? There's no benefit whatsoever to putting that woman in prison. None.
No. Yeah. No, it's terrible. But we do want to end with something nice. And I did see it's a compilation of little tidbits. So I guess the one is the little bunny that just accepts his fate. So check this out. Let's see if it plays it. Can you see it?
I see a bunny, but I don't see him doing anything.
Oh no, the poor bunny.
Oh. Oh, that's terrible, Fletcher. I hate it.
So this is like a little compilation of different
awful.
video.
Okay,
they
so
got
far
like a real fat squirrel. Little donkey went over. Little animal fails.
Fletcher, I think I'm gonna have to be the one to decide our animal ending next time. Okay. Why don't you run these by me first? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll try to pick up a few things, maybe a little bit more next time. Please like and subscribe. Share with your friends, and
please leave a comment.
Leave a comment, yes, please.
Good night.
So thank you so much for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you in the flippity flip, right?
Yes. Go to sleep.
Go to sleep. And say your prayers before you go to bed. Bye. So...